Once, in a small village Ojowa between the golden hills and lush forest, lived a young man named Kofi. He was known for his strength, bravery, and a heart full of dreams. He worked as a farmer, tending to the fields with determination, always striving to make a better life for himself. In the same village, there was a beautiful young woman named Abina. She was a humble, kind-hearted girl who lived with her grandmother, as her parents had passed away when she was very young. Abina, like Kofi, was hardworking, always caring for the elders in the village and helping her grandmother with chores. Her beauty was admired by all, but her quiet demeanor kept her from entertaining the advances of many suitors. One day, during the harvest festival, Kofi and Abina crossed paths. They were introduced by mutual friends, and from the first moment their eyes met, there was an instant connection. Kofi was enchanted by Abina's grace, and Abina felt a strange warmth in her heart when Kofi smiled at her. As the festival continued, the two of them danced together, shared laughter, and exchanged stories of their childhoods. By the end of the night, Kofi felt a deep sense of longing and knew in his heart that he wanted to marry Abina. Abina, too, felt something she had never felt before, a connection that went beyond friendship. Their families were overjoyed by the union. They were both from respected lineages, and the marriage seemed to be the perfect match. The village gathered for a traditional wedding ceremony, filled with music, dances, and offerings to the gods for blessings on the union. Kofi and Abina were married under the shade of the great baobab tree, with everyone celebrating their happiness. However, there was one secret, a secret that both Kofi and Abina were unaware of. They were siblings. Years before, Kofi's mother had been a young woman of great beauty and wisdom. She had fallen in love with a man from a distant village, a man who was Abina's father. But their love was forbidden by the elders because their families were enemies. Despite the ban, Kofi's mother and Abina's father secretly married and had a child, Kofi. But tragedy struck when both parents were killed in an accident soon after Kofi's birth. His mother's family took him in, never telling him the truth of his parentage, while Abina's family did the same for her after the loss of her parents. As time passed, the families forgot the painful history, and the truth was buried in the past. Kofi and Abina grew up separately, unaware of the bond they shared. Their fates, however, were unknowingly intertwined. Several months after their marriage, strange things began to happen. Abina started to have dreams, vivid and disturbing dreams, of a woman who seemed to be calling her name. In these dreams, the woman whispered secrets about her past, about her true family. Abina, confused and disturbed, spoke to her grandmother, who was old and wise, but the grandmother refused to speak of the past. One evening, after a particularly troubling dream, Abina went to the village elder, an ancient woman who was said to know the history of everyone in the village. The elder, after listening to Abina's story, sighed deeply and began to reveal the truth that had been hidden for so long. Kofi and Abina were, in fact, brother and sister. Abina's heart sank. She went home, shaken by the revelation, but she did not know how to approach Kofi with such a heavy truth. After all, they had already married and started building their life together. The next day, as Kofi returned from the fields, Abina met him at the door with tear-filled eyes. She could no longer keep the secret. She told him what she had learned, explaining the story of their parents and their secret marriage years before. Kofi was silent, his face pale as the truth sank in. At first, he could not comprehend the reality of what he was hearing. How could he have married his sister? His words seemed to crumble before him, and he could hardly breathe as the weight of the discovery pressed upon him. Abina, too, was in pain, but she knew that they had to face the truth. The village, once filled with joy for their union, now murmured with shock and disbelief. Some called it a curse, others whispered that it was fate. But the elder, who had revealed the truth, told them that the spirits had never intended harm. It was a mistake, yes, but one that could be healed through the strength of their bond. Kofi and Abina, although devastated by the truth, chose to remain together. They sought counsel from the elders and performed a cleansing ritual to remove any bad spirits and restore harmony. They vowed to honor their parents' memory and work to ensure their village learned from their mistake. Their love was not one born of blissful ignorance, but of understanding and wisdom. Kofi and Abina, though bound by blood, became symbols of the village's resilience. Together, they taught everyone that while fate might weave tangled webs, it is our choices and how we face challenges that define who we are. And so, Kofi and Abina lived their lives with respect for the past and the love they shared, always cherishing the lesson that family, though complicated, is the most important bond of all.